And we're back. We're back. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. Haven't made a video in a couple of weeks. The stress was weighing me down. Now, I could say it was because I got ACL surgery. I've been limping around for like a month and a half, and I finally got in. And then they tell me to wear this brace, and I'm actually feeling good. So good, I don't even need the pain meds, which is kind of a bummer because everybody said pain meds would be fun, but pain is not. So I guess I'm not really stressed from that. The reason I was stressed, the reason it was so hard to bring myself to this computer and in front of this backdrop, in front of these photos to give you another video is because I said on December 27th, we'd only have 5 winners in Monster Energy AMA Supercross in 2022. And we had 4 winners in the first 4 weeks of the year. Yes. When you look at our list this year and think that the Ferrandis, Sexton, Cianciarulo, Plessinger, I can't even go on with the list, then add to the guys that have won races last year like Weigandt and Barcia and Webb and Tomac and Roczen, and we get up to 10 riders. That's not going to happen. Half of those 10 probably aren't going to win. So I was going to look like a moron. But look, fortune, or the small fortune that you can gain on YouTube, favors the bold. So I had to just hope and pray that the 5 race winners that I predicted would hold, and lo and behold, it did. Marvin Musquin comes up with 1 late season win, and nobody else won. 5 winners. Ooh, it held. Now, look, I didn't say there was going to be 5 winners this year to dampen the enthusiasm for the series and say that it's not competitive, that it's not exciting. Look, this 2022 championship was awesome. I'm going to say 2 things. A, even though we only had 5 winners, the racing was really compelling. And even though many want to talk about how many riders got hurt by the end of the year, the racing was really compelling. It was compelling right down to the final lap of the year between Malcolm Stewart and Justin Barcia. Those 2 and Jason Anderson combined to give us nearly weekly hijinks of crashes and takeouts and controversies and arguments and penalties and should have been penalties and whatnot. It was a really fun, great, and exciting season. My point of predicting that there are 5 winners, we're just trying to detect trends here. We're just trying to figure out how these titles are won and how some seasons get on the track and how some get off. So as we review what we saw this year and decide why did we get 5 winners, maybe we can learn something for the future. But first, a shout out to Anti-Gravity Batteries, still on board as my sponsor. Now, there's 2 different types of batteries you can get. The super lightweight one, super lightweight, lighter than the one that comes in your motorcycle. This is the racing battery that is used by Monster Energy Kawasaki and Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing. First and second in the series, Jason Anderson, Eli Tomac, both using anti-gravity batteries in their bikes. The dominant Star Racing Yamaha YZ250Fs use it as well. But you can have a battery that's slightly heavier, just slightly heavier, still about stock weight and size, and has so much extra juice. They tell me you could jumpstart your truck with it, and it has a built-in jump starter. So if you're dumb and you don't trickle charge your battery, let's say you have a torn ACL like me and you're not going to ride for 6 months or so, yeah, I could probably jumpstart the bike and it'll start right up in November or whenever I'm allowed to ride. Do the math. So how about that? Anti-gravity batteries. Check them out. Great stuff. Endorsed by the champions of the series. Now, the 5 winner thing. I just was doing statistical analysis. We'd only had basically 5 winners every year, but the real challenge is trying to figure out not how many winners we're going to have, but who are those winners going to be? And if you had told anybody at the beginning of this season that Cooper Webb would not win a race and Dylan Ferrandis would not win a race, that would be shocking, shocking. But in order to only have 5 winners every year, there must always be these scenarios where riders that you can almost guarantee are going to win suddenly have a bad one. And that was the story of Cooper Webb this year. Now, credit to Cooper. He kept showing up at the races, even struggling. Then some injuries started to pile up. His chances of actually getting wins or podiums are actually starting to diminish, but he kept showing up and kept doing his job. He even went on Mathis's Pulp MX show on Monday to say, yeah, the season was bad. It was a combined quantity of things that all conspired together. A lot of it was the new motorcycle. Clearly, they got that figured out for Marv by the end of the year. I don't think he was in the shape that he normally is in. I don't want to take shots at his new for 2022 trainer, Michael Byrne. I got a lot of respect for what Byrne is able to do. I just don't think that Webb was quite in the headspace that he needed to be as prepared as he needed to be coming into this year. I think he was burned out after 3 years trying to live at that peak of Supercross. And a lot of the changes that I think Webb is trying to make, he left Eldon Baker. That didn't work. He went back to Eldon. He's going to skip Lucas Oil Pro Motocross this summer. I think all of these things, he's trying to figure out a way to reinvent the wheel. But it's the unfortunate thing about sports at the highest level. There really isn't any other answer except all-out effort. It's really hard to figure out an alternative formula. And I think that's what Webb is trying to figure out right now. He's burnt out. He's trying to figure out how to still get the good results, but maybe not be as all in as he was in those previous title seasons. That's hard to do. But either way, it all conspired to leave Webb without a win, and he made all but one race this year. You very rarely see a defending champ make the majority of the races and not win. I can't remember the last time that happened. It would have to be Emig in 98, who made most of them, but he even missed some. Anderson didn't win any in 2019, but he was hurt early on in the year. As for Ferrandis, yeah, it just didn't come together. We knew starts were going to be a problem, and they were, and then he got hurt. And then one of my personal pet peeves is that a rider, hey, pull the plug. They pull the plug, and they get ready for outdoors. Now, maybe it'll pay off. Well, everyone else has been at the Supercross test track. Ferrandis is going to be ferocious and potentially go 1-1 at the motocross opener with the #1 plate on his Yamaha, maybe. But I want racers that can win races to go and try to win. And maybe Ferrandis could have stolen one at the end of the year, and you never know when that window is going to open. And there are plenty of other riders we thought were going to get a win. It was overdue week after week. It was going to be the week that Malcolm Stewart got a win. It never came together. It was a great season for Malcolm, a great, great, great season. He ends up third in points. And look, just 3 years ago, Malcolm Stewart was struggling to even find rides, and he was not A-list talent. Now that we are talking about Malcolm Stewart being right there as, okay, Eli Tomac can win races, but so can Malcolm Stewart. The fact that you were considering those two guys at a similar level, that wasn't even close to the case just a few years ago. So huge improvement from Malcolm, but not enough to get that win. And Justin Barcia is usually good to splash a win in there at some point. He was also very good this year, but he didn't get that victory. So that's how we end up with 5. So what we're trying to look at for future seasons is, as I like to call, the reverse playoffs. You enter the year with 8 or 10 guys that you think could win, maybe 6 that you could guarantee you're going to win. And then you try to figure out, why did that not happen? And you look for the clues here. Some of it's injuries. For Ferrandis' case, it was starts. Webb's case, it was a variety of things conspiring against him. But the big thing is that someone figures it out. And that leads me to the other bold prediction and claim that I made at the beginning of the season, which is that round 3 is the most important race of the year. And in that one, if you look at the results chart, well, it wasn't, because Chase Sexton won the race. But let's look a little deeper into what happened there at round number 3. It was a great race for Sexton, obviously. It was an outstanding race, or should have been, for Jason Anderson, who was blazing his way through the pack and might have tracked Sexton down for the win, but at least was going to finish second until he had problems with his Kawasaki and he dropped back. But there was no doubt that Sexton and Anderson were the best 2 guys that night, and the third best rider that night was Eli Tomac. And if you look at the series, even though they weren't 1, 2, 3 in points, were Sexton, Anderson, and Tomac not overall the 3 fastest guys? They were the guys showing the most speed, the threats to win the most weeks. Yes, Sexton messed it up a lot with crashes. And then when he did get consistent toward the end of the year, Anderson was just slightly better, and he couldn't track him down at races like Foxborough and the finale at Salt Lake City. But there's no doubt that Sexton, I think, speed-wise, was the closest to Anderson and Tomac. So really, round 3 did kind of represent who are the best 3 guys. And it was a bad race for some others, and it's really hard to start pulling yourself out of that pit by the 3rd race of the year. Now, one other topic that I want to hit on is why this season still felt so exciting, even though we only had the 5 winners. And even though we had a lot of riders out with injury toward the end of the year, even Tomac ended up missing a race at the end of the year. And I did make a video about the remarkable durability of Eli Tomac. And then like a couple days later, he got hurt. Sorry, Eli. Why was the season so exciting? A lot of it is because of the one other video I did about how Supercross ages are trending a lot older. We now have Sexton representing the youth movement in the sport, even though he's actually about average age for a Supercross rider under normal circumstances. But now we have 29-year-old Tomac and 30-year-old Barcia and 28-year-old Anderson, 30-something Marvin Muscan and 38-year-old Justin Brayton doing great things out on the racetrack. But that leads to something else that's exciting as well. The fans know these guys. This is an established group. When Barcia and Malcolm Stewart were taking it down to the wire and the fans were going absolutely nuts at Salt Lake City, it was mostly because Barcia tried to take Malcolm Stewart out, but also because the fans know Malcolm Stewart and they know Justin Barcia and they're established. People love Mookie. He has an infectious personality. Mookie fever. People love it. People want to see him get a win. Mookie's always smiling. Mookie's always happy. He's an easy guy to root for. And then Barcia, Well, he has a reputation for knocking guys down, right? So this is two well-established foes. They've had history in the past. This is something that almost anyone watching that race is not going to say, what's going on here? They're going to say, oh, they're at it again. And Eli Tomac is a known commodity as well. When I announced at Daytona this year, I could not believe the crowd response that Tomac got. He had won Daytona time and time again before. And yes, they respected the effort. But this time, he was treated like an absolute hero. And I think the small down that Tomac had over the last year and a half, and then coming back up and kind of taking that, hey, Tomac's not going to be around forever. I don't want to take this for granted. And let's enjoy it and say that I got to watch Eli Tomac race at Daytona. I got to see him go into beast mode. I got to see Eli Tomac in his prime. I'm going to tell my grandkids this. Let's enjoy this for what it is. Tomac is established. You know him. You love him. He's legit. He's credible. And it's the same thing with Jason Anderson. He's been in your life for a long time. You know he's good, and you understand his style and his flair and how he treats the people around him and how he hangs off the track. All of these things are known because these riders are established and they've been around a long time. I think it makes it that much easier for fans to pick their favorites, to find the riders they identify with, and when it gets a little controversial out of the racetrack, as it did many times this year, to pick sides. And that gets people talking, and that gets people excited. Okay, so that's a wrap on what was a very exciting season, in my opinion, of Monster Energy AMA Supercross. We've got motocross coming your way soon, but I don't want to wrap it up just like this. I want to make this interactive. So drop some comments in the YouTube section of topics that you might want me to hit or questions that you might have. Also hit me up on Twitter. It's just at Jason Weigandt. That's my name. Send me a DM. If you got some questions, some topics, some things that you'd like me to answer, maybe I got some insider knowledge that I can help you with, or at least some pointed opinions that are based on nothing at all. I mean, it is YouTube. We got to do that sometimes, right? Yeah, send them my way, and we'll address it in our next video. Happy Supercross season, everyone.